Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Sorry,
Good.
do you ever like get on a Zoom and all of a sudden when you open up your laptop, it's just like, nope,
Yeah,
not
of
gonna
Everything, yeah,
work. It's just
totally.
yeah,
every single time.
Every time.
course.
Every time. First of all, congratulations on all the Emmy nominations.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I'm really mad I have to take umbrage with them not nominating Brittany Snow because I think she is incredible in this.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
criminal.
yeah, criminal. Um, I watched this season. I wouldn't say I binged it, but I have to say I think it's the end of episode six where I think it's six where Aggie finds Teddy on the floor.
Yes.
There's a very I have to also take umbrage with the editors because there's one brief shot of his face and it has I rewatched it yesterday and I forgot that shot was in there and it's literally scared the crap out of me ever since. So sorry, I'm just putting suggestion box things out there. Sorry, let me let me so okay, God, where to start with the show? I was thinking a lot about I think throughout the whole show when I watched it originally that I was thinking about kind of the intersection of rage and grief. And I thought about I was thinking about like rage at the very beginning when I was watching the show, and I was like, oh yes, this is clearly a through line that we're talking about, and then it's brought up obviously very much at the end, especially when Aggie is reading passages from her book. And I guess I kind of wanted to know, in creation of the show and sort of writing and characterization, how did you kind of want to I want to say thread that through, but I mean carefully put that through because you don't want to be too obvious. You don't want to, but you
Yeah,
want the audience to get up. So I'm rambling, but I guess just tell me about rage.
I think we didn't want grief to be something that Aggie kind of talks about.
Yeah.
It needed to be, it needed to be something that alters her behavior. And I think grief can make people reckless. It can make
Mm,
consequences feel less meaningful, because in Aggie's case, the worst thing that you can imagine has already happened. So I think grief and rage are very natural, sort of in many cases two sides of the same coin.
mm,
Yeah. I think for me, what was interesting is, when it comes to Aggie's um, rage at what happened at that injustice, she's someone who I think also has a whole lot of shame around
mm,
that rage.
yeah.
And which is when we meet her and she's in this very stuck place and it's not just grief, it's a kind of paralysis she's kind of been frozen in time. And part of what I think is appealing to her about Niall, or not appealing, but attracts her is the fact that he's able to express his own aggression, and I think she senses probably his own rage without any of
Mm,
that shame or compunction. And he sort of gives her permission to be in some ways, her most violent self. And I think there was something very interesting to me about, that, in the premise of this, that it's almost like, what would you do if you met your shadow, or
oh,
your id came to life?
God.
How would you be excited? Would you be terrified? Would you be, interested? And I think she's all of those things.
Mm,
And I think it's also very true that, usually when there is rage, it's usually masking a lot of pain and grief underneath. And I think especially for Niall, whatever pain he does experience, it's so far, below that it comes out as rage, and it comes out as in violence and aggression. But there's they do share that pain, I think, underneath it.
yeah, I kept thinking about how maybe there is, when you're going through something that, obviously surprises you, like the death of somebody, especially if it's the death of somebody where you feel responsible or slightly responsible, that I wonder, like, I'm sure anger and rage is probably it's very accessible. Probably
Mhm.
it's in sort of how that mutates and how it hardens and how it evolves is actually really, really terrifying. And I was talking to a friend about the show, and he saw it when it first dropped in the fall, and he was asking me because it was a lot fresher to me. He was like, he was like, what is one of your biggest like takeaways? We're sort of like diving deep into the show. And I said, I don't know. To me, something that really stuck out to me was something about how you can see yourself in somebody, whether that connection is super dark or not, but you sort of also like have the choice to do something different with it. Like you don't succumb to it.
Hmm.
And the way that I think in the finale, in the last interaction that we see between Niall and Aggie, I mean, attribute a lot to Matthew Rhys's brilliant performance, but also like sort of the way that they're looking at each other. It sort of just makes me think of, I'm glad at least Aggie made the choice to realize what she is doing, at least in the relationship between each other. I guess, does that make sense? I'm just rambling again.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think Aggie is drawn to a real monster, and there are things about him that she's interested in, but chooses is trying to not be one herself. And I think that's,
Yeah.
I think you're articulating, I think a lot of what we, um, because she really is our protagonist. It's we do have a choice.
Hmm.
Um, and we all have impulses, and we all have, darker fantasies. But we do have, hopefully some agency. And so I think that was always the line with Aggie is when she's, is how far could she go? How, what is that attraction?
Hmm.
And how much does she get to choose a different story for herself?
Yeah.
I think, what's interesting is that these two aren't kind of natural adversaries, right? In another version of their lives, they might be pals.
Yeah.
They're both smart and curious and a little arrogant about their ability to understand other people. So there's a genuine connection between them, and I think that's what gives the show real and the relationship real power.
Yeah. Sort of like the like I'm gonna say bedfellows, but like emotional, like dark friendship bedfellows connection. Because some of the scenes between the two of them, I feel like I was like under my breath. I was like, "Stop it!" Like I know, like I was like literally saying it out loud. It was like I understand, but also it's just like this guy. I was like, "Come on, stop it, stop it!" I was like just saying it under my breath as I was watching it. Um, Going back to the first episode of the season, um, I kind of wanted to ask in a general sense about I don't want to say like being neighborly, maybe like the politics of, being a neighbor that's sort of very thorny at sort of I like how the season really begins with that, like the sort of like, oh, I need your permission to create a running path. I hate getting mud all over my shoes. And I guess I kind of want to ask about that jumping off point because it stuck with me a lot and I sort of don't know why. So I guess I'm just picking your brain. Maybe the sort of like pleasant suburban Oyster Bay is considered suburban, but you know what I mean? Like gorgeous houses, really successful people, but the sort of like pleasantries that we share. And maybe as that as a jumping off point, but also like ticking up the roller coaster to the ride that we're going on. What's that kind of like?
Well, I think what's interesting about this neighborhood and neighborhoods like it are, we probably most of the time don't know our neighbors very well. We know what kind of cars they drive. We can probably estimate their net worth. We
Uh-huh.
know what colleges their kids went to, but we don't really know them. And
Yeah.
Aggie is in particular so siloed in the wake of her tragedy that every time she in the initial meetings with Niall, it's so invasive and it's so offensive to her.
Mm,
Uh, and I think it's fun that when we meet her, she's emotionally kind of stalled. But Niall appears and suddenly she's curious again, and
yeah.
she's working. She's found somewhere to put all of this kind of uh, stalled energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the neighborhood or the neighbors element was part of what I found really compelling about the whole premise. And it's true. It's that the politics of being someone's neighbor, it's all about boundaries and it's all about
Mm.
property lines, it's all about rules. and she's relied on those things to keep herself more and more isolated. She's really built this cocoon for herself. And then in next, move into the house next door moves this man who just disregards all boundaries and
Yeah.
treats everything as though it's his own space. And which is
Hmm.
obviously, but it does shake her out of this state. And so I think that was, you know, uh, that was really fun. I think, especially that first episode. You're right. It's so much about that invasive sort of energy that he just couldn't give a shit. He just walks right into her house.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated with the way that what Matthew brings to the character and what is probably on the page, just in terms of a man who does not ask for any permission, who has the family wealth, the privilege, the confidence, the arrogance to just um walk into whatever space that he wants to be in, and if he is challenged by that, he can turn the tables on somebody and not like move his feet. He won't. I mean, I have to say, one of the most something that got the biggest reaction, aside from murder that happens in here, is the moment later in the season when Aggie sees Niall standing in Cooper's room. I personally had a very like vocal, loud. I was like, she's gonna beat the shit out of him. It didn't happen, but I was just, I was just like, I felt so physically uncomfortable, with him crossing the threshold into that room that, yeah, clearly had an effect on me.
I mean, the
Um,
truth is, when we first cast Matthew, we all loved him as an actor. We were all fans of his work, but we didn't know that he had this gear, this sort of what's the word, unhinged kind of
mhm.
gear. And
It's
I just
scary. It's really
it's
scary.
scary. And
Yeah,
I
and it's different
remember
from roles he's played in the past. It's
completely.
really a different, yeah, different
I
register.
remember the day he first kind of flashes that rage, turning to Antonio Campos, the director, and going, "Oh fuck, he does have that gear." He was like, "Yeah, he does." It was great.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like uh, in the scene that's in the finale between Niall and Nina, when I kept thinking about, I guess I kind of want to ask about this just because I'm clearly a fan of Brittany Snow's work in this. Um, when she confronts him and asks if he killed Madison, like I was like, she has nowhere to run. She has nowhere to go. She would have to like jump over the bed and really run. But it was just sort of like the way that he introduces that darkness. I feel like to me, I hear it change in his voice. His voice gets really deep, and
Yeah.
then it's sort of like I don't know. I almost could feel like I could see his hands shaking, even if they're out of the frame. Um,
That's the scariest
yeah.
scene in the show to me. That's
Yeah.
my favorite scene in the show, and it's the scene I've watched and rewatched, and like in post, was just watching the dailies over and over again because like you said, that scene has so much power, and those actors, both of them, I
Yeah.
think is
Yeah.
just
And
Amazing.
actually, I wrote down a couple of the lines that he says in the finale where he says, "You know the answer you've always known. You're not an idiot." Um, if you just change the inflection or change the intent, it sounds like it would almost be soothing. I had to
Mhm.
like rewind it. I was like, is that what he actually says to her? It's so the simplicity of that set of dialogue is so the simplicity of it is very satisfying to me. I just have to compliment you guys on that because it's so good.
that's
Um
Daniel.
Great.
That was his
It's
baby.
amazing. Oh
It's a team
wow.
effort. By the time you get to dialogue, there have been so many conversations you
That's
forget
true.
who said what. It's
Yeah.
um,
Oh
no,
wow.
but it's true. I mean, Matthew really just was. I think to me, what got me about that scene was it, watching Matthew. Okay. Yeah, this character is absolutely a monster. He's absolutely a sociopath. He's absolutely murderous. But he does have pain of his own, which is not to excuse the horrible things he does, but there's like an awareness of what he's missing, or of his own, that he's had to deal with these urges or these there's a real a sort of I think what felt very real to me, in his playing of it, and I hope this was in the writing, but I give him most of the
Mm.
credit, is
Mhm.
that you actually believe that in his mind he really is a victim, and that he
Yeah.
really has had to fight so hard. Of course, from the outside, it looks like, are you kidding? You've been handed everything. But from his perspective, he really believes that it's just so unfair.
Hmm.
And that
That's the
he,
tragedy of that character for me. It's like he doesn't want to just be believed. He wants to be understood.
yeah.
And
Well,
he
and I think that's the
finally
reason. I think
finally
that's
found someone who may
I
be
think
able
that's
to
the
do that.
reason
Yeah.
he. I think it's the reason that combined with insane hubris and cockiness is, he doesn't kill Nina in that moment. That there actually is, as you said, and it's funny you mentioned the staging. I remember we were on set talking with Antonio about whose side of the bed was which, and it was like, no, I
Mm.
think it's got to be that side, because then she has nowhere to run. As you said, that it would be a less scary scene if she was on the other side and she could just
Yeah.
cross him. But
It's
her being cornered is really powerful, especially because that episode follows the episode 7, where we've seen what he's capable of,
yeah.
with a wife.
Yeah, there's a shot, I think I've seen a publicity still of, I think it's him like on his knees, like holding his head like up to her stomach, and like the look on her face. And it's just sort of like, I've come back to that picture a couple of times, and it's just sort of like, it makes me think. It was like, what is this guy's deal? Like a monster who, like, he doesn't think that like, monsters don't believe that they're monsters. So it's kind of like that's, I don't know, something about the touch of that, the sense of that. I'm fascinated with that
Yeah,
image.
and she's pregnant in the scene, and there's such
Yes, yes.
that was what there's the classic mythic, return to the womb. I mean, we know
Yes,
that,
Hmm.
exactly.
feels responsible for his own mother's
Oh,
death, and he's kind of blamed by his father for his mother's death. That, his birth led to complications, which led to, and
hmm.
again, so and again, none of this is new. I mean, it's, Greek and sort of in I think a fun sense, but yeah, I think, but yeah, there was a real tenderness to that moment, and I hope an audience watched it as for the first time, not quite knowing how Nina was going to metabolize this, what she was going to do with that, and
Mm.
obviously, as you said, being terrified for her
Yeah,
safety. Um, but once he actually did turn and actually kind of soften, what she would do with that. To me, even in the writing, it was like, that's a really interesting question.
yeah,
How would
that's,
that character react once the relief, sets in, that, okay, I'm not dead. I'm still alive. He
yeah.
didn't kill me, but what do I do with this?
Oof. Yeah, that's juicy.
And yeah,
That's
and I
juicy
do
stuff.
think Brittany was just so incredible, and they were
Yeah.
both so hard on themselves. In that, both Brett and Matthew and Brittany, unlike his character, they were both so self-critical. But when they did their two sides of coverage, they were both just they were criticizing themselves. And what was so sweet was when we were on Matthew, Brittany kept telling him, "Oh no, you're so, like, encouraging him." When Brittany was getting her head, he's like, "No, use it, use it, use it." They're so kind to each other when they're
Oh,
so self-lacerating. It was like, you guys are just amazing. But
oh
no,
wow.
it was really an honor to watch them work. It was really.
Yeah. Oh God. As terrifying it is, I was like, I want to go back and watch some of these moments now, because it's so good, so juicy. I so dig it. I have to say, before I let you guys go, something that I've never considered before. The first time I finished the season, it made me want to. I wish the book Sick Puppy was real, and I wish that
Mm,
the book The Beast in Me was real, because I
mm,
would love to hear how Aggie's voice, especially as a writer, has changed. I kind of wish I
mm,
could pick them up and leaf through it and
mm.
sort of see if I can, feel her feelings through them. And I don't think I've ever felt that watching something before. Oh my
I,
God.
I
Oh my
can read
God.
it. It's
That's
real.
amazing.
Oh yeah,
I'll
and
give
inside,
I'll
I
give
think
you my address.
I think the prop book inside, it was actually, what was it,
Yeah.
girl? What is it? It's something great.
The bad bitch business Bible.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I do have
Uh
one. Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean,
Yeah.
same.
Same,
yeah,
Um,
same.
Yeah.
that's
No,
great.
I got it. I mean, that was to me one of the more terrifying challenges, was was, I think I went into theater because prose was too scary for me, like having to write pretty sentences that, were sort of poetic and precise. I like dialogue because you don't have to do that. It's just
Hmm.
how people talk. But so yeah, writing passages from her book, that was it was a challenge in
I
trying to find.
actually, when she's reading it, I was like, wow, she's a really good writer. I was like, really, I'm serious.
Well, that's always the scary thing in TV is I think, whether it's someone making a movie or writing a book in TV, it can often feel so not great, and everyone's acting as though it's great,
Yep.
in certain TV shows because obviously it can feel like an afterthought. So no, I think it was really important to us that she's the real deal.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, yeah,
I mean,
someone could be like,
we took careful time, actually, Daniel and I, like crafting the what do you call it, on the flap of the book, like even making sure that
yeah.
sounded
oh, okay. Oh,
legit.
like
And
the thing that's supposed to pull you in. Okay, yeah, I get
yeah,
that. Um, well, thank you guys so much for your time. You guys are very
Of
generous with
course.
me. Thank you for letting dealing with my rambly
Oh, this is
feelings.
fun.
So,
no, it's
uh,
great.
yeah, so thank you. Congratulations again. It's I was talking to people about it today, and we had nice conversations about it. So, I'm really glad you guys were so well represented at the Emmys this year, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
Very
Nice
nice
to meet
meeting you. It
You
was
too.
fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day.
you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.